Okay, so here we go with chapter 7. And chapter 7 is all about lists and tuples. Tuples really not till the very end of the chapter, and we're actually skipping over that just because of time. I'll talk about them briefly in just a second, but what we're going to be dealing with is lists for this chapter. And very quickly, we'll just take a look at this layout. We're going to cover just sequences, this is just definition stuff real quick. And then after that, we'll look at kind of an introduction. So we'll do 7.1 and 7.2 in this video. And it'll be a little bit lengthy. Don't forget you can go back, pause, play with the code, go back to a section in the video. So I apologize for this one being a little bit long, but we're going to cover all of section 7.2 in this one. Okay, and let's see. So we'll skip some of this stuff, but I want you to get the basics of this, and just due to time, this is the portion we're going to be covering for sure. So let's just take a look at sequences very quickly. So sequence object that contains multiple items of data stored in order or sequence one after another. And so Python provides us a way of doing this, and there are different ways, but we're really looking at lists and tuple as well is very similar. And the main difference between these is that with a list, it's mutable, which means the content can be changed during execution. And a tuple you cannot. So once it's executing, a tuple can't be changed. So there are positive and negatives to that, but what we're going to be dealing with is lists, and that's for your homework assignments and the things that we'll be doing. We'll deal with lists, some of the stuff that you'll see in there. I think you'll really like. Lists are fun to mess around with and give you additional tools to be able to play with. So I don't know. I think they're kind of fun. So, and I know you'd say I say that about everything, but it's true. They are kind of fun to mess around with. Now, one of the questions I always get is, what about arrays? So, very similar to lists, but limited in what they can do. So, Python doesn't use traditional arrays because lists do the same thing but offer more built-in capabilities with different functions that we can use and all sorts of things. So some people would say like these are synonymous arrays and lists, but they are a little different. But learning how to use lists in Python now in this introductory course will help you later when you're learning how to use arrays in other languages. Okay, so very similar though. Okay, so and don't be surprised. I will try not to do it, but just because of the languages, I'm going to try not to say array when I mean list in Python. All right, so I'm gonna try and stick with lists. So hopefully you don't catch me saying arrays in this video. So all right, let's take a look at a simple introduction into lists. All right, so here we go. We can have a list of integers, and you can see the name of this one, even numbers. And again, it's just illustration, but and here we have our numbers in here. Okay, so even numbers 2 to 10. Okay, we can have strings, called name, and you can see or names, and you can see different names in here. Now, if we were listing these out, they would of course have to have quotes around them, and then we'll come down here, and this is kind of a beauty with using lists in Python, because here we go under info, and you can see we have a string, an integer, and a float. So that is a nice thing to have. So in other languages, it's very difficult to do. Python doesn't care. I mean, you do nothing differently to create a list of all different types, and it's really nice. So I love that. So let's take a look at how some of the code works and some of the terminology. All right, so here we have a list. And so we just talked about that briefly. So we have multiple data types in here, or multiple data items, can be different types too. And then when we're referring to an actual item in a list, so like back over here, the term element, which is an item in a list, so element right here, that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or Molly, Stephen, Will. It's the actual value that's in there. Okay. When we talk about an index, starts at 0 and it's pointing to a specific location. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but just really briefly so we can kind of get started with this. If we're talking about back here, my element for this location is Molly. My index is 0, and it will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so always starting at 0. So it refers to a location. If I'm referring to index 2, that would be, again, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Okay, so it'd be will. That'd be that location. Okay, so and we're gonna come back to index in a second, but just to give you just a really quick look at that. Okay, so let's take a look at how the format works here. So we're gonna have list name, and for this particular example, I just said my list, and then you can see you can have different things in here. It doesn't matter, you can have all sorts of different values in here, so our elements can go forever. So we've got 45, and then comma, and then space, doesn't really matter, but we have these different ones: 45, 34, 22, 55, 66, all this good stuff, right? So for this one, we just have 5 places. They can be different types. So I mean, I could come in here and fill this in with something else. So if I wanted to come in here and put, I don't know, 45.55. I mean, that's totally fine with Python. Okay. So, or if we wanted to put a string in here, I can put a string in here. All right. So not a big deal. I'll leave this the way it is, but anyway, so you can do that. Okay. If we wanted to use the print function, very simple way of doing it. We've been doing the print function. We just say print and my list like we've done with other variable names, and it would print out this. It would show up just like that. And so we'll take a look at that in a minute. And then there are ways of using this list function. This is a new one for us now, to convert certain types of objects to list. And so what we've done here, and these are both links, so num1 and num2, so we'll look at them in a sec. What we've done here is we've said num1 equals, and then we're using the list function, and we built the range function inside of it. So we just put that right inside. We said range 5, and we put that notice inside of the list function. And so what it will do is it will run through this range up to 5, starting, of course, at 0, right? And this will create a list right here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we take a look at this, here we go. So num1 equals list, and we've got this little range here. This is for the next one, so it's commented out. But anyway, so I'm going to hit visualize, and you get an idea of what this looks like in Python Tutor, and it's awesome. So we're going to go next, and you notice it goes ahead and creates a list, and it puts our values in here. So here's 5, and we're going through here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, Python Tutor shows us the index value. Okay, so these match up, but they won't necessarily always do that. And so we'll take a look at some other ones. In fact, we'll see that with the next code. Okay, so if I come into this one, we can use range again. If I highlight the range function, oops, come on, baby, you can do it. Come on. Start here. No, okay. So this, honestly, I'm getting whooped right now by PowerPoint. But anyway, so we have range, and we're saying starting at 2 up through 11 by 5s. So this will create a list with 2 and 7, and then it's done. Okay. So if we go take a look at this link right here, I'm just going to pop back over to this piece right here. You can actually just uncomment out, this and just use this if you'd like, but I'll go to a new page. So here we go. Running this through, I'm going to hit visualize, and as soon as I hit next, boom, there's our list. 2 and 7 are created. So here we go. So we have 0 for an index with 2 for our element value for that location. Okay, so location 1 for my index, I have an element value of 7. Okay, so you get the hang of this as you do a few of these, and then it'll make more sense to you. Okay, so let's go. That kind of wraps up this slide. There's a lot on here, so play around with this code a little bit if you'd like, and then we're going to throw a bunch more at you so you can play with some stuff here. So let's take a look at a couple other things before we look at iterations. Really quickly, we're going to take a look at the repetition operator. Now what this will do, it makes multiple copies of a list and puts them together. So the repetition operator is just simply the asterisk key, so a little star. So we have that. So what is that? Shift 8. And so what we do when this is applied to this piece, a sequence and an integer. So our sequence is our left operand here, integer is the right. So we say list, and this looks like times, right? So repetition operator, and then we have in here. So here we go. We're saying num, which is going to be our list name, is this times 3 really. So you can see what it does. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So again, just another way, another tool for you to play with. All right. So to be able to mess around with this stuff. And we're going to use this in a simpler form to be able to create values, and you'll see that kind of in just a second. Okay, so let's go to this. Let's talk about iterating a list using a loop, which you do. You'll end up doing this quite a bit. Okay, so use the loop to do the work for you. Let the computer do the work is nice. So if I come in here and I look at this format for X in list, we're going to say, here's our list. Here's our variable name here equals, and then using the square brackets, we just throw it in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not really a big deal, but that's it. And then for X and numbers, we're going to go ahead and print X. So when you run this, this is what you get. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. It's going to print it out. So if we take a look at this, here is just really simple, the code here that we'll look at. In fact, first, I think what I want to do, we'll go ahead and just comment these out. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. I put this in your link so you'd see it. So here we go. So for X and numbers, print X. We've got our little piece right here. And you'll see as we go through here, oh, look at that. It's not defined. So what is numbers? Make sure when you're putting these together, I'm going to say edit real quick. We have the list listed here, but we have the loop here referring to it. Okay, so you'll take this baby and we'll put this way up here. Okay, and so we'll do something like this. All right, and these are other ways of doing it. I'll talk about in just a second, but I wanted you to see this code. I'm gonna take this out too real quick. Just another way of doing it. So you can take a look at this. This is the same kind of thing as this piece right here. So for X in numbers, for index in num. So if this was a different one, print index. So different way of doing it. A lot of times you'll see instead of X here, you see index. Not a big deal. So let's take a look at this code. So now we have in the right place, we have our piece created here. You notice for this one, it has to be the same. Should have run this just to show you. Let's see. So I have nums. Here we go. And look at that nice little list right there. And I say for X and numbers. Oops, numbers not defined. Okay, so throwing a few errors at you here because these are some of the similar things that you'll see as you're doing this. So make sure you're using the right variable names. I mean, I know that sounds like, oh, duh, at this point in the semester I got this down. This is no big deal, but make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so now when I go to visualize execution, get rid of that baby. Here's my list, and it's going to walk through and print each one of those. So x equals 1, x equals 2, 3, 4, 5. So there we go. And we're just printing those particular values as they go through. So if we wanted to, okay, so it's pretty exciting stuff, right? So you're like, oh, that works perfectly, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and modify this a little bit. So let's say we throw in some other stuff in here. I don't know. We'll throw in some random, I guess it's not too random because it's my name, but it's kind of random. Oops. I don't know, some different stuff like that, okay? So is this going to work? Let's see. So I'm going to go here. Here's my list. And I'm going to go print this baby out. There's X, 67. Let's pulling this out. Look at that, 67. Here comes Jeff. Okay, so you can see it will work with multiple data types. We've got our float in there, ints, floats, and strings. Okay, so this is a nice, easy way to print the values out, just if you're just looking for that type of output. Okay, so let's talk about the top of this. In fact, I'm going to get rid of all of this as we talk about this. Okay, so two ways, really easy ways of setting up. I'm just going to do this. Two ways of setting up a list and getting started and having just 0 for our values in here. Each of these will do the same thing. Okay, so we're taking this one and we're just saying, hey, we have 3 values in here. We're going to set them all equal to 0, and that's going to start us out. With this one, we're going to go ahead and use the repetition operator to create a list. And this is probably the easiest way. Because a lot of times you may not have 3, you may have, I don't know, 12. And I don't want to do this for 12 times. It takes too much time. All right, so, and if you go to visualize, you'll see that what we're doing here, boom, we have a list, nice little 3, boom, boom, boom. And this one is going to go, boom, look at that. Oops, goes off the screen a little bit, but that's all right. Here we can do this. We can go, oh, I'm still off the screen a little bit, hang on. Okay, and there we go. So remember, 12, we always start at 0, so our index value is 0 to 11. Okay, so again, two different ways of creating these. Let's back up for the next one. Two different ways of creating an array. And, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did a list because we're in Python list. This is how you would do it. Okay, so either way is acceptable. I would say you want to, if you're not giving it values right off the bat, this is a great way to create it. Okay, so really easy way. All right, so that's that little piece. Let's also talk when we come back over here. Let's take a look at this. Let's say, and this is the way that you'll end up doing a lot of your assignments. Remember, we're using a loop to do some of the work for us. So we can use something like range. And again, there are different ways of doing this, but we're going to use iterations, using a list, using a for loop to get input from a user. So if I do this little simple piece right here, and I'm going to pull up the code because I think it's easier to see it over here. We've got this really simple little piece in here that just says, we're creating this little numbers list, and I'll just leave that one in there because it's all set up. And then we're going to say, okay, for index in range 3, because I'm matching these up, go ahead and just, I don't know, give me an integer, all right? And then we're going to write the values into the array and then print them here. I just use E for something different. Okay, so when I go to step through this, you'll see there it is created. And now we're going to ask for an integer. I'm going to say 58. I don't know why. And then I'm going to do this again. Notice how it wrote the value in. It's going through the loop. Click next again. Here's my next integer, 77. Submit. Look at that right there, right? So we're going to go ahead and store it. So that's what that did. Boom, there that's stored. And then I'm going to go through it one more time. And this time I'll say 88. And it just rolls through until we get down here, and we'll go ahead and print out the values. So I click next there, here comes Z, and it will walk through. So there's 58 as it's stepping through here, 77 and 88. Okay, and then we're done with the code. So again, you have the link to this so you can play with it, Connor, on your own, but hopefully you're seeing the logic and how it works. And again, this is amazing. So thank you to Philip for putting this together. This is a great tool. Python 2 is a great tool. And in fact, in my other languages, even though it's not fully functional in Java, C++, I still have students that will come in, and when they're playing with arrays or lists like we are, they will come in here and use this so they can see kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So very, very useful tool. I would highly recommend using this for your code for now. And then remember, you can go to edit this code, highlight the whole thing, Control C to copy it, and then go paste it in REPL to save it, and then you got it that way, and then you got your links in there. But this gives you a way to make sure you're seeing how it's working and what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to indexing. Like I said, I know it's a little bit lengthy, but we're at I think the 18-minute mark. So if you want to take a pause, go get something to eat, come back. But I wanted to cover this whole section in this video, knowing that you can come back to it later. All right. So let's talk about indexing. We talked about it a little bit. But if you take a look at this, we have, the index, and we talked about this already. So if we take a look at this sample, we have this particular display showing us 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Those are our elements. And then the index starting at 0 is right here. So 0 for this one, 1 for this one, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So, and if you see this, and I put a code here for you to check out. If we use a minus when referring to an index, we start at the back. So -1 is the last location. All right, so regardless of how many we have, if this is 56, it doesn't matter. -1 will be the very last one for 56th place. Okay, and then -2 steps back, and you keep stepping back. So -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, so and you go, whoa, why would I want to do that? Well, you'd be surprised. So you'll find that you may need to use this for something. So so it's a nice tool. So let's take a look at this code. All right, because I really just wanted to show you this, the minus here. So here we go. We're going to create this nice little list, and we're taking this piece in here. I'm going to say visualize. Oh, you'll notice something here real quick too. Look at this. So we've got, oops, got to shrink this down a little bit. Or maybe we can pull it over. Nope. shrink that down. Okay, so here is our list, the little 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all the way across, right? We have our index 0 through 8, our elements 1, 2, 3, all that kind of good stuff, right? So if we're saying print, and notice we're printing num, so it's this list, and notice in square brackets, we've got these little square brackets, we're looking for -3. So the value that this is going to print, if you consider what we just looked at on the last slide, this is -1, this is -2, this is -3. So this should print 1. If we click next, oh, look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so we know it worked. All right. So anyway, so that's the way that the minuses work. So if you wanted to print that particular value, okay, and this works for if we wanted to do a normal value too. So we could say, I don't know, let's print 5. So I'm gonna say visualize, create my little list right here, and it's gonna print 5. So when I click next, you'll notice it prints the value 3 because it went over here, went to index 5, and prints the element or value 3 that was stored in there. All right, so that's just a quick example of that. All right, now let's do a couple more examples of indexing. Let's say we have this particular one. All right, so here we go. We created this little list called hours, threw these values in here, and then here are the contents of it. So hours with the square bracket 0 refers to 20, 1 refers to 12, all that kind of good stuff. So what you just saw on the last slide, if I say print, and inside my print function, I use hours with square bracket 2, it's going to come to this location and it would print the value 40. Okay. To bring it into a loop, let's take a look at this. We are going to, same kind of thing. Look, so hours, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Index equals 0. So while index, using while this time. So while index is less than 6, we're going to print hours using the value index. So that's going to step through and then increase it by 1 each time. So if we take a look at that, here is the code. I'm going to say visualize, and you'll see it step through. I'm going to make this a little bigger just to see. So here we go with the list, and I'm stepping through, and it's going to print the value 20. And each time I step through here, it goes to the next one, increasing the value index each time. And you'll see it will keep going until it gets to 15, and we're done. And that's another way of printing that out. Okay, so the index stuff, hopefully you kind of get the hang of it as you play around with it again. You can go back. I try to put a lot of links in this little section so you can check those out. And we're gonna take a look at just one more little thing in here. I know it's been forever, but let's take a look at one more little thing. Okay, so let's look at the len function. Okay, and how this particular piece works. So if we were to come back over here, actually, let's wait because this is really getting pretty ridiculous. I'm at 23 minutes, so I'll save that for the next video. All right, so we'll stop with here at the indexing, and we'll kind of do a part 2 for the next piece.